Isn't there a girl on TikTok that's like showing off her luxurious lifestyle, and it turns out her parents got their wealth from exploiting undocumented workers? There's still people in her comment section being like, but she's so funny, she's not like other rich girls, she feels so relatable in a way. Most of you are not even willing to unfollow the rich on social media.
When people who cannot live the lifestyles we praise and see on social media consistently continue to show up anyway, yet are publicly shamed for it, that's classism. Classism didn't just find its way on social media. Social media actually gave it a home, an algorithm, and a following, and we are all part of the problem. Today we are going to be talking about the existence of classism on social media and why you and I might be amplifying it. But first, let's delve into the concept of classism. Classism is discrimination or prejudice based on a person's social class. The idea that a person's self-worth, intelligence, taste, moral character is as a result of how much money they have or how much money they appear to have. That part is very important. Classism operates both ways, looking down on people who appear to have less and treating people who inherently appear to have more as better or more deserving. So classism as a form of discrimination is a little bit more slippery as compared to say other forms of discrimination like racism or sexism, because we have this inherent belief, especially when it comes to the Western societies, even here in Africa, we have this inherent belief or deeply rooted belief that people are where they are because they worked hard for it, that class position is as a result of personal choices, personal efforts. In other words, people are where they are because they worked hard for it. Example, you're rich because you worked hard for it. You're poor because you didn't. Sociologist Michael Zweig also wrote about it, the idea that class gets framed as a moral issue rather than a structural one. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous on social media, because social media is built on the idea of individual choices: what you post, what you buy, how your life looks like, what you eat, what your morning routine is. So basically classism fits right in. It slides through the side door dressed up as lifestyle content. Sociologist Pierre Bourdieu wrote about it in the 1980s, which he termed cultural capital, the idea that beyond money, there are certain things, certain cues that signal class: knowing the right things, liking the right things, certain taste, knowledge, certain aesthetics, behaviors, and presenting yourself in a certain way. All these things signal class. According to Bourdieu, social capital is just as important as financial capital in producing class hierarchy.
Unbox my dream bag. Hermes. Oh my goodness. It is a canvas mini Birkin. First they tried to offer me a mini pink Birkin, which I already had. I wanted something a little bit more special and unique. And this is what they came up with. I think this would look really cute if I Beckify it a little bit more with like a little star accessory.
Think about it. Social media is basically a cultural capital machine. The way you talk, where you travel to, how your house looks like, the family you are coming from, how you present yourself on social media. And it broadcasts it to thousands, if not millions of people. And then it lets the crowd respond. And the crowd has opinions. Comments like goals, I want to be on this side of a particular social media site. So classism also is able to fit right in that dynamic. It slides through the side door dressed up as lifestyle content. Let's talk a little bit about aesthetics. Every time I go on social media, I keep seeing the same patterns play out. A girl posted her morning routine on TikTok. She wakes up at 5 a.m., grabs a matcha latte, does Pilates, has a nourishing, not to mention very aesthetic breakfast, and goes to her remote job, which also happens to make her millions, by the way, all before 9 a.m. The comments, thousands of people saying goals, so aesthetic, she's so disciplined, I want her life. This is probably the most visible place where class plays out a lot on social media. And it's the one people push back on the most because it's dressed up as harmless trend content. Cast your mind back or just scroll back on TikTok and look at the aesthetics that have dominated social media over the last couple of years. That girl, clean girl aesthetic, quiet luxury aesthetic, old money aesthetic. The list goes on and on. The Becca Bloom dominated TikTok because she fed her cat caviar on a bowl that probably cost more than my monthly salary. So an aesthetic is basically a vibe. It's when everything you see, the colors, the shape, the style, all match and feel like they belong together. Think of it like this. If someone's feed has bright colors, flowers, and sunny photos, that's a cottagecore aesthetic. Again, everything matches. Or say a person has neutral colors, candles, beige, a lot of browns. That's also a different type of aesthetic. It's when all the visual things around you share a similar vibe or mood or coherence. And together they look intentional and pleasing to the eye. For some, it could also be a look or a lifestyle, and for others, it's a way of life. For the quiet luxury aesthetic, the whole point is expensive basics. The Laurel Piana, branded cashmere. The thing about the quiet luxury aesthetic is that the quietness is the luxury. You already have to know exactly what you're looking at for it to signal anything. That is not an accident. That is old money literally designing an aesthetic that excludes people who don't know how to read the code. We also have the clean girl aesthetic, the glass skin, the sleek bun, effortless minimalism. Do you know what effortless minimalism requires? A skincare routine that costs hundreds of dollars a month. Time, access to the kind of healthy food that is not cheap, and ironically, the ability to look like you're not trying, even though you are, which is honestly a skill that requires a lot of resources and practice. We also have that girl aesthetic. We've all seen it. Wakes up at 5 a.m., Pilates, journaling, green smoothies, matcha, a job you can do from a laptop on a balcony anywhere. Let's take a look at Pilates alone. The average Pilates class per session costs about $30 to $40. That's 480 Ghana cedis, 4.8k if we are converting to Ghana cedi or Nigerian naira. If you're doing that 3 times per week, that's up to $500 a month. And that's just one element of the that girl lifestyle. Now factor in the random trips, routine, interior decor and makeover, fine dining. It's a lot. My problem isn't the $40 Pilates class. I mean, drink matcha if you want. But my point is, on the surface, they look like fun little style trends or trends for social media. People finding their niche, expressing themselves, curating a vibe, taking care of themselves. And there's some of that, I'll be honest. But take a closer look and you notice something that you cannot unsee. Almost all of these aesthetics have a class flaw. This is where it gets interesting from a research perspective. A research study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that aspirational content, face beats, always on point, nails always done, perfect aesthetic, perfect style, perfect room, perfect life, perfect body, perfect jaw, no bad hair day, perfect everything generates more engagement than realistic content. Basically, a perfect lifestyle generates significantly higher engagement than what we would call realistic content. More likes, more saves, more shares, more views. Which means platforms algorithmically reward it, which also means that creators who can afford to produce such content get more reach. You see where I'm going with this, don't you? So it's not just a cultural preference. It's baked in the economics of how social media platforms distribute attention. And what happens to creators who can produce that type of content, who are making videos with natural lighting and a phone camera? Well, the algorithm is structurally less likely to push their content, regardless of how smart, funny, or genuinely useful it is. So this is what I mean when I say classism isn't just cultural on social media. It's also mechanical. And to be fair, enjoying these types of content, enjoying aesthetic content isn't a moral failing. I'm not saying if you like quiet luxury content, clean girl content, you are a bad person. No. I'm saying the system that rewards certain aesthetics and punishes others is worth examining. there's a difference. Now we are getting into relatability because this one really gets me. There's an entire genre of content on social media built on wealthy upper middle class creators performing working class experiences. Audiences eat it up. They love it. I mean, I love it as well. Come on. They behave on screen just like us, right? But I want to pull the curtain back a little bit. Here's the thing about relatable content. It's a performance. And like all performances, it requires resources, it requires time. Let me give you an example. The relatable Nepo baby content. Incredibly popular, very fun, very watchable. The premise is I am rich but not obnoxious. I am rich, but I live a pretty simple and lovely life. Relatable, humble, anti-consumerist. Except, and researchers who study influencer culture have pointed this out. The most successful, rich, seemingly relatable creators usually have professional editors, PAs, videographers, video production setup, and a platform that was built over time with social network, investment, and social capital. So the relatable, fun, down to earth Nepo baby is the content. The infrastructure behind it is invincible. And that infrastructure costs money. Money you and I do not have. There's a term for this that sociologists and economists use called conspicuous non-consumption. When wealthy people perform frugality or simplicity as a status signal. It's the flip side of Thorstein Veblen's idea of conspicuous consumption. I don't need to show off, I'm above that. And it's very, very popular on social media. The old money aesthetic is literally called that. I have so much money that I don't need to try, which is a very specific form of wealth performance. One of the things I like to do when I come across people's content on social media is to go through the comments. The comments is where it's at. The comments is where a lot will be revealed to you as a silent comment reader if you're like me. And I think this is also one of the motivations for making this video, and it just amplifies the identification or the realization of how classism exists on social media. The comments reveals a lot about how people see things and why they see things the way they do. This is the part where I need you to be very honest with yourself, because we all participate in this one. Social media comment sections have become spaces where people's class positions get publicly judged, moralized, and sometimes brutally punished. I watched a TikTok where a lady tried to make a video in her room which seemed to need a little bit of painting on the walls. Everybody saw that in the video. Some just watched and others had a lot to say about it. There was one comment that caught my attention. So here was the comment. Paint your room. Laughing emoji. My rule is, if you have nothing nice to say nothing. What this comment is not accounting for is that paint is expensive for some people, and painting her room could probably mean going hungry for several days. That not everyone can afford basic necessities, but should that stop them from creating content on social media just like everyone else because they are going to be judged for it? That's just one example. I recently came across this lady's post also on TikTok. Come with me to an unesthetic salon. We do it constantly without realizing it. I do it, you do it. Heck, we all do it. But we do it constantly on social media without recognizing it as classism. And we wonder why people are living fake lives. It's because you and I will judge them. That's why. When people who cannot live the lifestyles we praise and see on social media consistently continue to show up anyway, yet are publicly shamed for it, that's classism. Meanwhile, wealthy people who are doing objectively more wasteful things are getting celebrated. Someone posts about their $10,000 handbag haul, and it's a completely different energy in the comments. Same people, different standards. Sociologist Shamus Khan calls this the privilege of not being judged. The idea that a higher class status comes with a moral buffer. Your choices are seen as just choices. Meanwhile, poor people's choices are seen as symptoms. All the ideas we've described so far, the aesthetics, the relatability performance, the comment section, that happens on platforms that were built in particular ways. Those ways are not neutral. Let's start with the cost of entry. To be able to make content on a platform like YouTube, you generally need equipment, software, lighting, microphone, a good camera, and a stable and fast internet connection. And most invisibly, time. Time to film, time to edit, time to upload, time to learn the algorithm, and time to engage with your community. Basic but functional YouTube setup could range from anywhere between $500 to thousands of dollars. Adobe Premiere Pro, one of the editing softwares that most YouTubers use for editing their content, costs around $55 per month. Stable internet connection is not cheap. Time is also a class issue. If you're working multiple jobs or caring for family members or working even a very demanding 9 to 5, commuting long distances because you can't afford to live near where you work, you simply have less time to produce consistently than you want to. And consistency is what every platform's algorithm rewards over time. So before you've even posted a single video, class has already shaped your starting position. Then there's monetization. YouTube requires 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours before you can join the partner program and start earning revenue. TikTok and Instagram have their own thresholds. What that means in practice is that there's a gap, sometimes a very long one, between when you start creating and when you start earning anything. Getting through that gap is much easier if you have financial stability outside of it. And then there's brand deals. The real money in creator culture is brand partnership. And brands, let's be honest, they are not neutral. They tend to partner with creators who have a certain aesthetic, a certain audience demographic, and frankly, a certain look. Research on influencer marketing consistently shows that creators who are perceived as upper or middle class attract more and higher paying brand deals because brands want to associate their products with aspiration, which means the economic rewards of the creator economy flow disproportionately towards those who already have advantages. The platforms present themselves as a meritocracy. The best content wins. So the playing field is anything but level. A 2022 report by the creator research firm Single Fire found that the top 10% of creators earn the majority of all creator revenue, and the bottom 90, well, they earn almost nothing. That distribution should sound familiar. It just mirrors the wealth distribution in the broader economy. So social media did not fix inequality, it replicated it and then just added a subscribe button. This video could come across as social media is evil, everyone is classist, and nothing is good. And I don't actually believe that, no. So let me give you the other side. Social media has genuinely democratized things that were previously inaccessible. Before YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, if you wanted to reach a large audience, say as an artist, you needed a record deal. If you were a writer, you needed a publishing contract or a magazine feature. Gatekeepers and middlemen decided who got to be seen. And those gatekeepers had their own class, race, biases, which we're going to get into in maybe another video. Imperfectly, partially, but it did. There are creators from working class backgrounds who have built a massive audience just through social media. Small businesses in places that traditional media ignored, and businesses that have found customers through TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube. There are communities that have been built through social media. Disabled communities, migrant communities, activists, all those communities built just based on social media. We found each other and built communities on social media that just weren't possible previously. A 2020 study from the Reuters Institute found that social media had increased the diversity of voices that people were exposed to in media. Now that's real. But this is the key distinction I want to leave you with. Democratization of access is not the same as democratization of outcomes. Anyone can post a video, but not everyone has the same chance of that video being seen and turned into a livelihood. There's a difference. I'm making this video using equipment on a camera that many people may not have access to. I'm benefiting from the same system that I'm critiquing, but that's not a reason not to make this video, but it's a reason to stay humble about it. So I'm not standing outside this thing pointing in. I'm inside it talking about the walls. So where does that leave us? I think it can leave us with a question that we should be asking ourselves as we scroll. When you see someone getting dragged in the comments, what is actually being judged? Their choices or their class? Say when an aesthetic goes viral, who can actually afford to participate in it? When a creator goes massive, what did it take for them to get there? And who got filtered out before they had the chance to get there? Now, none of this means you can't simply enjoy the content and just go about your day. And it definitely doesn't mean every aesthetic content is a conspiracy evil. It just means that social media, just like every other space that humans have built, carries the fingerprints of the society that made it. And that society has a class problem, which I believe we all know by now. Social media did not invent classism. Let me just point that out. What it did was to give it an algorithm. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.